You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Here now, the news. I'm Guy Ticker, Night Dreams Talk Radio Network news director, anchor reporter, and pet psychologist. Antarctic ice hole the size of Switzerland keeps cracking open. Now scientists finally know why. Researchers first spotted the hole, called the Maud Rise Polignac, in 1974 and 1976 in Antarctica's Weddell Sea. Since then, it's been reappearing fleetingly and sporadically, opening up in different sizes, but in the same place, and sometimes not for years. This left scientists puzzled as to the exact conditions needed for the hole to form. In 2016 and 2017, a huge 309,000 square mile hole opened up for several weeks during both winters, enabling scientists to finally solve the 50-year mystery. They reported their findings this past Wednesday, May 1st, in the journal Science Advances. When the summer turns to winter in Antarctica, sea ice expands from its minimum of around 1 million square miles to 7 million square miles, covering 4% of the Earth's surface in irregular porcelain white tiles. Most of this sea ice grows during the weeks-long polar night on the floating ice shelf that wraps around the continent. Holes in this ice, called Polignac's, form when strong winds from inland push the tiles apart. Mystery solved. AI, artificial intelligence, discovers over 27,000 overlooked asteroids in old telescope images. More than 27,000 asteroids in our solar system have been overlooked in existing telescope images. But thanks to a new AI-powered algorithm, we now have a catalog of them. The scientists behind the discovery say the tool makes it easier to find and track millions of asteroids, including potentially dangerous ones that might strike Earth someday. Most of the newfound asteroids hover in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, where scientists have already cataloged over 1.3 million such rocky shards over the past 200 years. The latest bounty, discovered in about 5 weeks, also include about 150 space rocks whose paths glide them within Earth's orbit. To be clear, however, none of these near-Earth asteroids seem to be on a collision path with our planet. Phew. Others are Trojans that follow Jupiter in its orbit around the Sun. Observations of these asteroids are yet to be submitted to and accepted by the International Astronomical Union's Minor Planet Center, the official body responsible for asteroid discoveries. Finally, in the news, why North Korea's latest propaganda bop is a huge TikTok hit. When North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un released his latest song 2 weeks ago, no, I haven't been drinking, surely he couldn't have foreseen it becoming a hit on TikTok. But the propaganda tune has gone viral online, with Gen Z users bopping around to the synthy electro-pop. Most are clearly quite oblivious to the Korean lyrics praising a man who's vowed to thoroughly annihilate the U.S. and launch dozens of ballistic missiles. Quote, "Let's sing Kim Jong-un, the great leader. Let's brag about Kim Jong-un, our friendly father," the song goes. It's really just a great tune, TikTokers say. You know what? You decide. Well, that's catchy, kind of like a cold. Taylor Swift was not expecting to get blown out of the water right after dropping her new album. One fan joked online, "Wait, this slaps. This song needs a Grammy. It's so dystopian in the catchiest way." Those are just some of the enthused comments TikTokers made. But the Sunny Pop hides something more sinister, experts say. Could it be it's Kim Jong-un? I'm Guy Ticker. The news is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. To submit a story or to get all the latest news, go to nightdreamstalkradio.com, because the truth is out there.
Deep in the Amazon jungle, one man.
Hi, I'm Stan Gordon. Check out the Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary the Big Guy.
Yeah, let me finish. One man.
Hi, I'm Mark Muncy. Check out Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary the Big Guy.
Yeah, do you mind? One man, naked and afraid.
I'm losing my mind.
You and me both, sister. One man, Gary the Big Guy. No boats, no lights, no motor cars, not a single luxury.
Hey, any more and you'll have to pay a royalty.
Okay, that's it.
Hit it.
From the summer vacation studios deep in the Amazon jungle, from that tree right there. See at the top, he's swinging.
I'm losing my mind.
Twice?
All right. Coming to you live, for now, on Night Dreams Talk Radio, naked and afraid, Gary the Big Guy Anderson.
Well, you know what? It's the 13th of June already. Boy, time is going fast, JC. I mean, like a time machine.
Yes, absolutely. And we're talking like Back to the Future kind of time machine at that.
I don't know. Would you want to go back in the future? Would you want to go back in time, really? I would like to. If I'm going to go back, I want to go back to the Maya civilization.
You want to be a sacrifice. That's what's going to happen to you, mister, when you go back there, especially being naked and afraid, like the commercial says.
Yeah, they're going to rip out my heart. You know that.
I do know that.
But they can't do that. My first wife said I didn't have one.
Oh,
now, wait a minute. No, but seriously, how can they rip out my heart if my wife said I didn't have one? Well, you know what a 6-year-old boy did, JC?
Well, I could just imagine. But tell me what this 6-year-old boy did.
Well, a young boy, 6 years old, Mason Stonehouse, believe it or not, his last name, got a hold of his dad's cell phone and wallet and got on and ordered, ready for this, $1,000 worth of junk food. $1,000 worth.
My question is the person on the other line. I mean, could they tell that he was 6, or is this guy a future?
He did probably ordered on the internet.
Yeah,
I mean, you know the stuff he ordered: multiple layers of pizza, shrimp pizza, sandwiches, soda, candy. And he ran up $1,000 bill. Could you imagine his father when he got the bill? I can tell you, and let alone, how could you, I mean, $1,000 worth of food from all these companies being delivered to your house?
Yeah, I got a feeling that the kid's going to be in timeout or got to see the backside of the woodshed or something. Something happened there.
$1,000 worth.
That's a lot.
I would be... The word starting with an S, bricks. I'll tell you that much.
So sharp.
I'd put my kid up for adoption. That's what I'd do.
Oh boy, you put him up on eBay, right? Get your money back.
I don't know. Now, strange, you know that a 6-year-old smart enough to order $1,000 worth of food. Can you imagine a pizza with shrimp and everything on it, but not one, multiple pizzas?
No, and where was the father when all this going on with his wallet and all?
He was taking a bath. That'll teach him not to take a bath.
The kid works quick. If he did all that in a time it took him to do a bath.
I don't know how long. You know, I haven't taken a bath in years. No, I do take a shower every day, but I haven't been in a bathtub for years. Why should I? I can go in the shower and be in and out in like 3 minutes. In a bath, I'd be there, honestly, an hour or two. You know, I'd get my candles going, get a bottle of scotch, you know, get my magazines of, well, Mechanics Illustrated of sorts. And I'd just be laid back watching, you know, and reading these books.
You get your incense and your rose petals going. Meanwhile, your 6-year-old boy comes in. We're not looking.
Hey, Dad, you want a slice of shrimp pizza? Don't worry, Dad. I ordered it all. Where did you order it from? Oh, you know, I used your cell phone. I used your credit card.
Got you covered, Dad.
Yeah. Well, we got a great show. We got Tim Swartz on.
Yeah, we do. Matter of fact, he's going to tell us a little bit about this time travel subject that you speak of.
Oh, yeah. Remember Marshall Barnes last week?
Yes, I do.
Oh, yeah. We're still, you know, getting massive hits on our YouTube with him being on. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think it's approaching almost, 10,000 or something. People are really into it.
Yeah, that's us on YouTube. It was over 1 million downloads. Okay, well, here's a little bit of information about, well, Tim.
Tim R. Swartz is an Indiana native and Emmy-Award-winning television producer, videographer, and is the author of a number of popular books, including The Lost Journals of Nikola Tesla and Gef the Talking Mongoose. Tim is a contributing writer for such books as Brad Steiger's Real Monsters, Gruesome Critters, and Beasts from the Darkside, and Real Ghosts, Restless Spirits, and Haunted Places. Tim's most recent books, along with author Sean Casteel, are Weird Time, Exploring the Mysteries of Time and Space, and Mimics, The Others Among Us. As a photojournalist, Tim Swartz has traveled extensively and investigated paranormal phenomena and other unusual mysteries in such diverse locations as the Great Pyramid in Egypt and the Great Wall in China. He's worked with major television networks, both national and international. He's also appeared on the History Channel programs Ancient Aliens, Evidence, Ancient Aliens Declassified, The UnXplained, and the History Channel's Latin America series Contacto Extraterrestre. His articles have been published in magazines such as Mysteries, Fate, Strange, Atlantis Rising, UFO Universe, Flying Saucer Review, Renaissance, and Unsolved UFO Reports. Tim Swartz is also the co-host of The Paracast with Gene Steinberg, which you can check out at www.theparacast.com.
Well, Tim, how are you doing on this Thursday evening?
Well, Gary, thank you very much for having you on. And I really appreciate it. I'm doing great tonight. I love your voiceover announcer, by the way. I wish I had a voice like that.
I wish I did, too.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great. You know, Tim Swartz is, well, makes my throat hurt just trying it.
Yeah, hint, he works at WABC or WBNBC. Anyway, this newest book, I mean, you wrote a lot of books. You've accomplished a lot, everything from UFOs to mongoose. I got to ask you, how do you go from UFOs to mongoose?
Well, Gef the Talking Mongoose. That's a fascinating story. It's one of these situations where it's like where the people dealing with a ghost, a poltergeist, a fairy type of creature. So I mean, all these things just right up my alley.
Interesting. How long did it take you to write that book?
Oh, probably a little bit more than a year. My publisher, Timothy Green Beckley, he managed to actually find, because this case took place back in the 1930s in the Isle of Man, Great Britain. And there was a paranormal investigator by the name of Harry Price who did extensive research on this case and actually wrote a book about it called, what was it? It was like The Haunting of Dorlish Gap, which was the name of the house that this all took place. And it only sold like maybe 300 copies and then basically just disappeared. Well, Tim Beckley was able to find a PDF of this book, which hadn't really been seen in years. So this helped. It was just such a great resource to be able to get into the whole subject. And then some of the interviews that were done with the daughter, who was 13 at the time, years later after she had grown up and had moved to England. And Fate magazine actually tracked her down and did an interview with her, and so we were able to include that in the book as well. It really just a fascinating case, and one that I discovered first when I was a kid. I can't even remember what the name of the book was that I read it at, but like a 12-year-old boy reading this, and so I mean it was really a great privilege then to write a book of my own on this incredible case.
Wow. And how old were you when you really started getting interested in the strange, the paranormal, UFOs, and time travel?
you probably have a lot of guests on the show who say that, yeah, when I was a kid, something weird happened, or I discovered a book, and that's how I got into it. And I was young. I was in 3rd grade, but I was sort of drug kicking and screaming into it all. I really didn't have any interest. I liked science, especially space travel, because, the whole Gemini and Apollo missions were taking place when I was growing up. But, being an Indiana boy, I was more interested in, say, like car racing or basketball, especially car racing. And one day in 3rd grade.
Oh, wait a minute. You mentioned car racing. Did you have any when you were a teenager, did you have any hot rods?
No, unfortunately not. My first car was actually a 1965 Buick Wildcat, which was already old by the time I was old enough to drive it. Not exactly a race car, even though it did have 8 cylinders to it. I mean, that thing was a boat, first of all, but and I think it was made of solid steel and iron, throughout, and it could go really fast once you got it up to speed. But no race cars for me. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I didn't either. I had a choice when I was in high school, going out and dating or, getting a car. And I looked at it. Do I want to date girls, or do I want to get a car and work on it? And after about 3 seconds, I said, you know what? I want a car. And all my money went into the car. And then I had this car. It was so beautiful. My grandfather, actually my uncle, came, and he was a professional painter. We repainted this car. It was a 56 Mercury. And it looked beautiful. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I never started the car. I think I was like 15 or 16. Never started it. So after we did all this work of body work, painting it, it looked beautiful, right? We started it, and the motor was shot.
Oh.
Off to the wrecking yard.
Oh.
If I had it over again, I would have dated girls.
Oh my gosh. That's got to be a major disappointment.
That's okay. Then I went on from there. I still got a car. I don't know. Moving along, here you were, a young kid, you were interested in, maybe drag racing, watching drag racing?
The Indianapolis 500.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those were the type of cars I was interested in.
Yeah, one of my dad's friends did that occasionally. James Gardner, the actor.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was, of course, you grow up in central Indiana. You can't avoid the Indianapolis 500, especially in the spring. That's all everybody, ever talks about, right through the end of May with the race. So, yeah, that was the kind of stuff I was interested in. But I got assigned one time in 3rd grade to do a report about UFOs. That time of the year, there had been a flap going on in the United States. And the teacher was assigning everybody bits of headlines from the news to do reports on every week. And one time I got a story about UFOs. I didn't know anything about UFOs, so I did the best I could. But then I was marked by everybody else as the guy who believes in UFOs. I believed in Martians and little green men and all that kind of stuff.
Did you find people when you started talking about it back up a couple of steps and give you a look from your feet to your face?
I wouldn't talk about it. That's just it. I wasn't really interested in it all. But, you know how kids are. They won't let something like that die if they think they've got something over you. But the weird thing is that, people would make fun of you when they're in a group. But then later, they'd come to you individually and say, well, I don't believe in this stuff, but, and then proceed to tell me stories. When we were on vacation, we saw a UFO, or, my great grandmother Agnes, who died 2 weeks ago, has been appearing at the foot of my bed. stories like that. And that's really what got me interested in this stuff, were these stories from people who really had no interest in the subject, no interest in publicity or making money. They just had something weird happen to them and wanted to know why, wanted to know if they were crazy or if anybody else had similar types of experiences. And that's really what has led me all these years, are these individual stories from people. And that's why I'm interested in all of these different things. Like I said, from UFOs to cryptid creatures to ghosts, to Gef the Talking Mongoose, it's all just so fascinating.
Well, did the mongoose actually talk?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it not only did it talk, but it screamed and cussed, and I mean it had quite a vocabulary to it, and the phenomena lasted for years, which is unusual, because if you're dealing with, say, something like a poltergeist, they usually last maybe a few months, sometimes a year. But this thing, it lasted for a number of years.
That is interesting. Just think about, there's so many things out there, that we go, it wouldn't exist. Some people, I've never seen a ghost. I've had some weird encounters. I don't know what they were, but in a way, I'm really glad I haven't physically saw one. But I mean, from UFOs to, ghostly things to Bigfoot, which I have seen, there's a lot of things out here in this world that we have no explanation of what they are and where they're coming from.
Oh, I know, Gary. And, that's what really what makes all of this just to me so interesting is that if you go and, okay, let's just narrow it down to say like ghosts. If you would go and look at reports of hauntings, poltergeist, ghostly activity from 3,000 years ago and compare them to the ones that are happening today, there's not much difference. It's the same kind of stuff going on through the centuries. And, that has always led me to believe that there is some kind of reality to all of this, because if it was just stuff that, people were either making up or hoaxing, then there would be a lot more diversity to the report. But no, the reports are almost consistently the same across the planet and across the years.
Oh, yeah. And that's what's interesting. Even going back in time, speaking about time, if you went back, 100 years, 200, 300 years, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have cell phones or TV. Why would somebody on another continent have the same experience as somebody in the Amazon, let alone in the New Americas? All that, something is weird. Now, Michio Kaku said on our show, we're so close with, string theory, of cracking the fifth dimension where portals could be existent, parallel universes could really exist. Could the ghostly things be maybe fifth dimension that could somehow are going into our dimension and out?
Yeah, well, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, Gary. I do suspect that all of these types of phenomena will eventually have an explanation, but it's probably an explanation that we currently don't understand, that's not within our science. And if you talk about, quantum theory, entanglements, string theory and all that, yeah, well, okay, sure. But until somebody can actually make that observation and then turn that hypothesis into a theory, then right now it's all just guesswork.
Well, there's something going on. I mean, JC, is a ghost hunter. He's had some really strange encounters with beings through the years. I don't know. Now, you got this new book about time travel. What made you decide to write a book about that?
Well, I had written a book about time travel years ago for Tim Beckley's Global Communications. And it actually was a book that was first assigned to somebody else. Tim Beckley had a writer who went under the pseudonym of Commander X. And Commander X had a contract to write a number of books for Mr. Beckley, but unfortunately had some health issues and was not able to complete a couple of them, one of them being about time travel. So Beckley asked me if I wanted to try to tackle it. And, I was like, well, sure, of course. It's to me, approaching all these different subjects is kind of like trying new foods. I mean, I'm ready to try anything. And, the same goes to, my writing and research. I'm excited by all of it. So Beckley actually sent me all the notes and preparation work that Commander X had started. And his approach to the book was going to be more along the I suppose the psychic and paranormal lines, talking about like magic spells that had been written, centuries prior about time travel, or using meditation and astral projection to try to achieve this. And to me, I mean, that was fascinating, but I thought that there was a lot more to the subject that needed to be approached. So in my research, I started discovering different things, these people who were like garage inventors, and as well as what appeared to be, maybe like a natural phenomena like time slips. And so then the first book, what was called? I think it was called time travel, a how-to guide, I think was the title that Tim Beckley gave to it, and that ended up being really really popular. So after Sean Casteel and I completed our last book, which was Mimics the Others Among Us, people were asking, well, what's your next one going to be? And, I hadn't made a decision yet. And I kept getting a lot of, you should do another one on time travel. And time travel is always just such a fascinating subject with so many people that we were like, okay, sure. I mean, like I said, the first time travel book we wrote back in the very early 2000s. So enough time has passed that there's all kinds of new theories and new stories that we could include in this book. So, I mean, that's really what got us started in putting this book together.
Interesting. Now, we need to take a break for about 3 minutes. We'll be back with Tim right after the break. We're going to talk a little bit about time travel. We're going to talk about the Gibbs, time machine, which if anybody wants to buy it, I paid $250. I'll be more than happy to sell it to you for half that. We'll be right back with our great guest tonight, Tim. So stay tuned.
Come along on a unique journey of adventure and discovery. Read On the Trail of Bigfoot, a first-hand account from paranormal researcher and skilled outdoorsman Mike Dupler on his many years of investigations into the Bigfoot phenomena and his personal encounters with these enigmatic creatures of the forest, complete with photographs. Don't delay. Order your copy today. This book will inspire those who have answered the call to seek this elusive creature, the Bigfoot. The truth is out there. On the Trail of Bigfoot by Mike Dupler. Available now at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and IndieBound.org. You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, the home of Night Dreams Talk Radio, with Gary Anderson, syndicated worldwide. Paranormal Talk Radio, like you remember.
And we are back with Tim Swartz again. You know, about time travel machines. You know, my late friend Art Bell talked me into buying one of these. He knew darn well that the Gibbs time machine would not work. But, you know, he said, get it. So back then I bought it. And, you know, it was only recently, after I had Marshall Barnes on, not this last time, but the time before, I decided to take the thing apart. If that would give you time travel, I don't know what would, because there was nothing really in it other than a couple capacitors, some resistors, a transformer, and a coil, like an old TV degaussing coil, like a wand. And it would give you a rush when you plug it in. You get the vibration from that coil. But I don't see how it could do time travel. Now, Gibbs, before he passed on, kind of changed his story about it and said, well, it kind of makes you astro time travel. Now, you know, astro time travel is like when I was like 16, I got into, well, cooking sherry and drank it. I traveled pretty good on that, but I can't get into astro travel. How about you?
I've tried in the past doing, you know, astral projection, but was never successful at it. I was reading the books of like Robert Monroe. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he wrote several books about his astral projection experiences, and so I tried that, but I was never good, and like you, Gary, I tend to be somewhat psychically dead. I'm a dead zone when it comes to psychic abilities. I've had some paranormal experiences that have been fairly striking, but as for astral projection or actually seeing, you know, physical apparitions, nah, it's never happened with me.
How about time slips? Have you ever had a time slip?
I think that I have, and you know, I went back and forth on whether or not to include my own experience in the book, this recent book, but I decided not to, you know, for various reasons. But I'm willing to talk about it, you know, on shows like yours. But yeah, I mean, it was when I was 16, and before I got my my wonderful 65 Buick Wildcat, and had to borrow my dad's station wagon. And you know, back then, makes myself sound old when I say that, you know, back then, when you got your driver's license, you could just immediately go and start driving. Now I have a 17-year-old daughter, and, when she got her driver's license, you had like a grace period of 6 months where, you couldn't have any passengers your age. You only could drive with, adults, things like that. No, when I was a kid, if you had a car, you could drive as far as you wanted to. But a friend and I, we were on this road, and it was a highway, and we got a flat tire, and so we pulled off. This was a highway. It was a 2-lane. I think it was 55 back then, but unfortunately, the shoulder was gravel. Very loose type of gravel, and we couldn't get a good place to put the jack down. It just kept slipping, and we had parked in front of this house. It was off the road a ways, but it had like a sidewalk from the front porch to the highway where their mailbox was, and this old farmer, looked like a farmer, came out, and he brought with him a flat piece of looked like plywood that he was able to put under the jack, and it gave us, it was stable then to change the tire. And so, we thanked him and went on our way. Well, when my mom found out that this had happened, she insisted that we take him back. She made like a pie or a cake or something to thank him for helping us. And I could not find that house to save my life. I went up and down that section of the road, and it wasn't there. And I know exactly where we were, but the house wasn't there. The strange thing is that when we were there originally trying to fix the flat, this house had teacup rose bushes on either side of this walkway from the house to the road, and those are they're big, kind of like bushy types of roses with little tiny, and they were in full bloom that time of the year. And I found a place that had rose bushes like that, but there was no house, and I never did find it. So your guess is as good as mine. Was it a time slip? Was it a ghost? I don't know. I just know that from this day, I have no explanation on just exactly what happened.
A time slip, I didn't believe in them at all. But, back, it happened to me with two of my kids years and years ago. One of my passions besides talking has been photography. And I've said this before, so my regular, he's saying it again. No, we were going up to Mount Rainier to take some pictures of a waterfall. And we were driving there, and, it was the same road that I remember when I was a child in my grandfather's Nash Metropolitan. We would cram in there, my mom, dad, my grandmother, grandfather, and me. And we go and stop at this one cafe on the way up to Mount Rainier. Well, we're driving, and my son said, "Hey, look at that. They got it." There was a reader board out, hamburger and soda for $1. Naturally, you got kids. Well, first thing, food, so we had to stop. And Tim, what was really strange is when I pulled in there, the place looked familiar from when I was a kid. That's number one. Mm-hmm. 2, it was old antique cars, so I thought. And we walk into the place. And everybody's gawking at us. And I'm looking at them and I'm going, what is on here? I mean, these people are dressed in like the late 50s, early 60s clothing. And, and we're staring at each other. And I felt very uncomfortable. So we, proceeded. We had our food. I left. And, because when people are staring at you, it just gives you a weird feeling. And the next week, I said to my kids, I'm going to go back up there. I want to get some more pictures. Oh, hey, I'll go if we can stop at that place and get a hamburger. Oh, sure. We go up and down that road, just like you did. And I couldn't find the place. And I went up that road 3 or 4 times, where I knew where it was at. And I noticed there was some like rubble of a building that one time burnt down, but I didn't think anything of it. So I stop at the only store in the area. And I go in there and there's a lady clerk. And I said, last week we stopped at this cafe just down maybe a mile from here. And, they had fantastic hamburgers for $1. And the lady's looking at me. And she goes, "Sir, that place burnt down years ago." And I, to this day, two things. It drives me crazy when I think about this. And my kids, and we talk about it. Well, now they're adults. We talk about it quite often. But what would have happened if we would have stayed there longer? Could we have got stuck in a different time? What do you think?
That's a great story, Gary. That is a great story.
It's scary when you really think about it.
Well, and yeah, I mean, it's I've heard a lot with basically that same scenario, the vanishing restaurant story. I mean, it actually has its own classification, and it's just about the same type of situation as you reported. And again, that's one of the things that makes these kind of stories fascinating, is that they happen all the time, different parts of the planet and at different times. But I mean, it's almost the same. The one difference though that I noted that you said is that the people looked at you weird when you came in, because the majority of these stories, nobody seems to bat an eye when these obviously weird people in their modern cars show up, and they took your money without saying anything about it.
No, I didn't pay attention to that part. I'll be honest with you, I wanted to get out of there because besides them staring and gawking, you could hear muffles of them talking. Like, "Hey, where do these freaks come from?" And then they were staring at our car too, because whatever it was. I was like 20 years in the future compared to them. It was just a weird situation. And again, to experience something like that, I just wondered how many people have a time slip and are unfortunate and don't go back in their own time.
Yeah, I've wondered about that myself. Because, as you well know, I mean, there are thousands of people that disappear off the face of the earth every year. Now, granted, a lot of them met some kind of unforeseen accident, met the wrong person. But then there are others that there's no easy explanation for. And I'm like you. I've wondered if they haven't had some kind of unusual encounter like yours and didn't make it back in time, and whatever is going on that creates these types of events, if you're not fast enough, you go back with it. My own personal theory is that that's probably rare, because I think that we have our own, I don't know. It would be hard to describe. You have your timeline that you are drawn to, and that if you do happen to hit that wrinkle in time, so to speak, and catch a glimpse of the past or future, after a while you're automatically going to go back to your own energy or vibration, however you would want to describe it. But I do think that there are the occasions when somebody does disappear, and like you said, end up working behind the counter of the lost restaurant in time for the rest of their life.
Or could they not exist? In the case of me, I would probably still exist, but maybe my kids, because I think they were like 8 and 11 at the time. Maybe being stuck in that time zone, they would have ceased to exist.
Yeah, it's there's all kinds of fascinating ideas and theories. about these kinds of events. And you know, it's weird because there are a lot of them, and we probably could have written a book just entirely on the phantom restaurants and hotels phenomena, you know, because there are so many of them. And you know, and every time after we put out a book like this, then people write to us with even more stories. And it's like, oh, why couldn't we have gotten that one, you know, before we finished the book? That would have been so perfect. You know, and it just, sometimes it makes me wonder with a lot of these cases. Okay, take yours, for instance. Okay, now people were looking at you weird, looking at the car weird, yet they took your money, which, I mean, if this was, you know, what, 20 years in the past, money definitely would have been different then.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but they took it, and
yeah, I think they took it. I think, if anything, they took it because, I'll be honest with you, they probably were in shock, just like I was in shock with them. Because, I mean, let's face it, I mean, when you see somebody drive up in a car that they couldn't comprehend could exist, let alone the clothing we were wearing, which, if I look back at with the bell bottoms, but I mean, if they looked at all that stuff, I mean, we were freaks to them. And, you know, and I think, you know, if you hand them money, they just were just happy for us to leave the place, let alone they were probably trying to figure out where we came from. Maybe we're, you know, people thinking Star Trek and all that stuff, you know, aliens.
You know, there was a case that took place in France back in the 1970s with two couples that were on holiday from Great Britain. And they were instructed at some point, they were looking for a place to stay for the night, and they were told to go down this road, and there was a hotel that, a smaller hotel that had vacancies. And when they got there, it looked like a place from like maybe the late 19th or early 20th century. No glass in the windows, just wooden shutters.
No toilet.
No toilet. No, it was all outside facilities. No locks on the door. No like traditional handles. It was just like a wooden latch. They did have blankets on the bed, but no pillows. But they actually enjoyed staying there and got a great meal that next morning. Though they noticed a couple of gendarmes came in and had coffee, and they noticed that the outfits that they were wearing were definitely old-fashioned. And then a woman came in carrying a small dog, and she was dressed very fancy, but obviously very old-fashioned. But the weird thing is that nobody reacted weirdly to the way that they were dressed, or even said anything about their car, even though they had the only car in the area. And when they were asking, they really couldn't speak French, and they were trying to ask the gendarmes what was the quickest way to get back to the highway. And, you know, they you know, weren't understanding what they were saying, and they were just motioning, you know, go back up the road. But they paid their bill. They even took photographs of themselves in the room. But again, when they came back, when they were coming back, and they were wanting to stay there again, because the bill was just like maybe, you know, like 2 or 3 francs for a night stay for all of them. And they were like, you know, we're going to stay there again. That was fantastic, you know, bill. They couldn't find the place. And the weird thing is that they asked locals if there had been a hotel there at one time, and nobody could remember a hotel being there. That was the weird thing. Yeah. So, you know, was this a time slip or something else?
How about a portal? They could have gone into a portal into a parallel universe.
Yep, exactly. And that's one of the things that we talk about in our book, Weird Time, Gary, is that there may not be much of a difference in this universe between time travel and alternate realities and things like that. Our understanding of how this universe works and what our reality really consists of is so lacking currently. I mean, it wasn't really until over the last really 20, 30 years that scientists even would dare to start trying to speculate on the true nature of time. You know, Einstein probably was the first, and you know, he didn't live that long ago. He was probably the first to actually attempt to try to look into the nature of time with his general theory of relativity. Before that, time was considered to be in the realm of philosophers. Don't ask me about time. Go ask that guy over there with the long beard, sitting under the tree. But now, we got Einstein, you had Kip Thorne, people like that who have actually dared to look at time and the nature of our universe and reality. Now, I don't know if anybody has really gotten too far ahead at this point, but at least they're trying.
There's been people like Madman Malcolm, who, at one point he was on my friend's show, Art Bell, a couple times, where he stole a whole bunch of power transformers and created, what he called a time machine. And he said that he actually put, like tools and it would disappear and come back. But I just think about, it was his listening to, what he said at the time and my background in electronics. I can't see creating high voltage with a massive amount of current, like 10 times more current than an electric chair would be. Yeah, I think you would disappear, but I don't think you'd go back anywhere in time or forward in time, especially with no way to control it.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take?
Well, yeah, I actually have an entire chapter about people like Madman Mark Markham and their basement time machines or garage time machines, and those stories are fascinating. But like you said, if you have any kind of knowledge of electronics and read about the things that they did, you're like, it's a wonder that you're not dead. It's a wonder that you're just not a fried crisp of bacon on the floor if you were doing what you said that you were doing. But you go as far back as somebody like Nikola Tesla, who knew what he was doing. He was the master of lightning and electricity. And he knew how to generate, massive amount of current and to be able to stand in the middle of it and not get fried. Yet he had an accident one time in his laboratory where he said in that brief second that he was caught in this stray electric arc from his Tesla coil, that he felt like that he was outside of the universe, and that his perception was that he could see the past, the present, and the future was happening all at once, and that and it actually later, it led to him, being interested in the whole subject of time in the universe and everything. But he said that brief moment, it gave him the realization that time was not, and he had trouble describing it, and I have trouble, describing it as well. But he felt that our perception of time in the three-dimensional world is mistaken, and we're incapable of understanding and perceiving time as it actually is. But because of that accident, I mean, it led him to try to actually develop his own, unified field theory of the universe, which he possibly was never, like Einstein, was never capable of doing. But because of that accident, it led him on a completely different journey, so to speak, in trying to get a better understanding of the universe. So, if you have somebody like Tesla, who was able to do that, then, I mean, there is the possibility, I suppose, that, some of these garage inventors may have, like Tesla, had some kind of accident where, instead of being fried, deep fried to a crispy, crackly crunch, instead cause something else to happen, like you said, a portal, a brief portal in reality, and then probably their attempts to recreate that accident never happened. It's probably almost impossible to recreate something like that, at least with our current understanding of science. But I don't think it's outside the realm of possibilities that some of these people have actually had these happy accidents, so to speak.
Yeah, well, that could be also a happy ending too, if you think it wrong. Anyway, our time is up. Can you hold your book up and for people can see it? And where can they find your book, Tim?
Definitely. Well, there it is. It's a weird time, exploring the mysteries of time and space. The easiest way to find it right now is on Amazon.com. It's available both as a print and ebook. Trying to get it in Barnes & Noble, and it's also available at some of your local bookstores. And please patronize your local bookstores. I always say that. And if you want to find out more about it before you buy it, we've got a website for it. It's called weirdtimebook.com.
Well, great. Hey, Tim, I want to thank you so much, my friend, for coming on.
Thank you, Gary. I had a great time tonight, and I hope your audience enjoyed this as well.
Okay, my friend, you take care.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Well, we're going to be back with our next guest. We're going to be talking about UFOs, ETs, abductions, and a lot more. So don't go away. Check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com.
Looking for Bigfoot or UFO themed merchandise? Look no further. Explore Night Dreams Talk Radio's store for an array of paranormal goodies, from t-shirts to mouse pads to socks to whatever the heck that thing is. Don't miss out on these unique items. Check us out today at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. While you're checking out the cool merchandise, go to the latest news tab to find out what's going on in the world and outside the world. Again, go to www.nightdreamstalkradio.com.
the latest news from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom. I'm Guy Ticker. He quit heading the Pentagon's UFO office. Now a report of his has shaken up ufology. From threats to election integrity, to the spiraling climate crisis, to complex foreign conflicts, our journalists contextualize, investigate, and illuminate the critical stories of our time. We're able to provide a fresh, outsider perspective, one so often missing in the American media. Sean Kirkpatrick has faced threats for his work, and a new report concluding no evidence UAPs represented extraterrestrial tech has sent ufology and people into a tailspin. I'm Guy Ticker. The news is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. To submit a story or to get all the latest news, go to nightdreamstalkradio.com. Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
And we are back. JC, if you could go back in time, would you honestly consider it if it was a one-way ticket?
Yes, I think I may consider it because I know enough where I know what to play and what will happen, so I could live nice.
Yeah, but how about all your friends like me, your loved ones? You would lose them all. Could you imagine that? Would you be willing to give up everything you know? Even including your laundry machine, doing your wash machine, your dryer, your microwave, your TV, your cell phone. You're going to give all that up, but would you?
Yeah, you bring up some good points. So I don't know, Gary. It's like that one-way trip to Mars. I don't know. I guess you're not coming back. You better really think these things over.
Well, Earl Schwab for $99.95. Well, you can go to Mars.
Yeah, you can. It's a big decision. You got to give me some time to think about it. When we leave it.
I don't know. Next week on the day after that day.
Okay.
Gotcha. I don't know if I want to go up. Again, would you want to be abducted by an ET?
No, I would not. Personally, I wouldn't. No.
Would you if you were abducted? Would you bribe him with barbecue sauce?
Well, I would definitely try to. I don't know what I would try to do. It depends on the situation, I guess.
Well, that's interesting. Who's our next guest? We're going from time slips, time travel, to ET, UFOs, and abductions and all that stuff. Who's our guest?
Well, our next guest is Cheryl Carter. Now, Cheryl had her very first paranormal experience at a very young age, and now she's a researcher and author of many great books covering things from hauntings to UFOs. Well,
Cheryl, welcome to the show, and I got to ask you a question. When and have you ever seen a UFO?
Absolutely, I have, yes. I'd say probably 10 years ago. And I was just driving down the street in town, middle of the afternoon, and I looked up at the sky, and the sky just opened up. Like the sky tore, and this disc comes flying out, and it was just hovering there. And everything around me just stopped. And it was just, all I could do was look at it. And then I don't know how long went by, and then the sky opened up again, and it went back inside, and the sky just closed up.
Do you remember how big it was?
It had to be as big as a plane. It was big.
Were you scared?
No. I was mad that I didn't have a camera with me.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Cheryl. A lot of people have cameras, but you know what? When you see something like that, your brain doesn't function. You go into a mild shock, and you don't think about, I'm going to take a picture of it. So, that's interesting. And do you remember, was it metallic, or did it have any?
Yeah, it was silver. And I don't know if it had lights on it because it was daytime, so I didn't see any lights.
How about after that? Have you had any other encounters with UFOs?
I've seen other strange things in the sky, but nothing where the sky opened up like that. That was amazing. I've seen those light rods up in the sky. I've seen that quite a few times.
Do you feel we're being visited by species, or not species, humanoids, or whatever they are, from out there?
Well, yes, but how do we know they're from out there? Maybe they're from here. Maybe they're from another dimension right here on Earth.
Yeah, well, they could maybe use the device for time travel. But, if you really think about this, our planet is very young compared to other galaxies, solar systems out there.
Exactly.
And technology, I don't think we're going to make it to a level 1 civilization. I really don't. I think we're going to get rebooted for probably the third or fourth or fifth time. But you think about, another race of humanoids or whatever you want to call them, technically so far advanced that maybe they can time travel or, well, in a sense, travel the galaxies and universes in a matter of seconds.
Exactly. That's why I said they could just be in another dimension. So how fast would they get here? They don't have to go through all the planets. They're right here.
The thing that really concerns me, there's been so many reports, especially, going from 1947 Roswell, which to me, a lot of people say, oh, Gary, Roswell doesn't count. That's old. That doesn't make, that's not disclosure, but, that's probably the best disclosure we have ever had, where the military came out and said, we have a crash, UFO, which they changed the story because I can imagine all hell hit the Pentagon and the presidents when, that went over the, the news wire. But, again, I mean, if you wanted proof or people wanted proof it existed, it's too many people that have been interviewed during that time frame. It all had the same story.
And there were actually 3 crashes. That wasn't the only one.
Right. So, I mean, when you think about it, and who knows how many more has happened since.
Mm-hmm.
But I again, the disclosure, I really didn't think we were going to be told anything when Congress did their little circus. I'm sorry. But they really didn't come out and really tell us anything. We didn't hear anything.
Well, they gave us little breadcrumbs, try to diverge us for something else. But no, they didn't tell us anything. We know more than what they told us.
But again, governments lie to their population. They've all. Oh yeah, they do. And you think after lying about so many different things for so many years and spreading propaganda, regardless what it is, the subject is, you think they're going to come clean and tell the population, yeah, we're being visited by ETs. They might not be friendly. You think they're going to ever come out and tell us?
Never, never, never.
Now, have you talked to anybody that claimed that they were abducted?
Yes, I know Travis Walton.
Well, do you want to talk a little bit about, your conversation with him, if it's possible?
Well, I think everybody knows Travis Walton's story, where there was a group of loggers that they were up on the hill chopping down all the trees and stacking them up. And on their way back down the hill that night from the mountain, this UFO flew over the top of them and it landed. And Travis jumped out of the Jeep and he walked right up to it and he got hit with this flash of light that knocked him over. And everybody took off because they thought he got killed. And then they said, oh, we better go back and get him. That's not right to leave him there. And he was gone. They had abducted him. And he remembers being inside the ship. He told me that he was in there for a few days. And then they dropped him off somewhere else.
Interesting. Do you believe his story?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I've had a couple of his crew members on, Cheryl, and they're disputing what really happened. with him.
Well, I know who you're talking about, and that's another story. But
yeah, it could be. He's been on the show. We got to bring him back, JC, and see if his story changes. But could you imagine?
They were all there. They all know what happens. They're upset because he wrote a book and made money, and they didn't.
And they made a movie about it too.
They could write a book too, but they didn't. Bottom line, that you're just doing that to him because he wrote a book.
How about other people that, being abducted? I've been doing this a long time. I've interviewed literally hundreds and hundreds of people through the years that claim they've been abducted. And if they are, I'm telling you that experience of being abducted, being experimented on, or even implanted would be an experience I wouldn't even wish on my worst enemy. Well, maybe one I can think of right now. So you wrote this book. What made you decide to write this book?
I don't know. I was writing a different book, and one morning I woke up and I said, I need to write a book to tell you about UFO encounters and abductions. And we all hear the stories, and then you think the people's lives, they go on happily ever after. Well, they don't. I wanted people to know what happened to these people during these experiences, abductions, what happened to them afterwards, how they had to go through therapy, hypnotic regression to try to straighten their life out, and just what happened to them. People don't know the whole story, and I wanted everyone to know.
Well, think about it. If you've been abducted and experimented on or what have you, it does damage to you for the rest of your life. And then who do you tell? Because, do you tell your wife, hey, I think I was abducted? Uh-huh. Here's the point. A lot of people, when people say I was abducted, they don't believe it. But, exactly. There's been so many cases like Calvin Parker, all people down the road that, claimed that they were taken on the board of a craft and, opened up, experimented, extreme amount of pain. And, I don't know if you know who Terry Lovelace is, but he's been on my show.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, a few times in the past. And his encounter, when he was taken aboard that craft with his friend, he noticed all these people naked. And he was hearing screams, and he saw humans in a tube with liquid. And when they got done doing whatever they did with them, the craft took off with people aboard. And that just makes me wonder how many people are being abducted and never returned.
Is that people they abducted, or is it hybrids that they have in the tubes?
I don't know about the tubes, but he said he saw men, women, and children naked.
But they could be hybrids.
Well, no, they were in examination rooms, and again, he was hearing horrible screams. Mm-hmm. So whatever they were doing with people, they were experimenting on them. JC, do you remember that?
I do remember that very well, because the thing was, here's the scary part about his scenario. They were on a conveyor belt, Gary, and he was paralyzed, couldn't move nothing, but he's standing up, and he couldn't move nothing but his eyeballs. Okay. And so, but there was humans, he said, they were in jumpsuits working with the aliens.
Yeah. Like military jumpsuit type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But the whole thing is, at the end of this conveyor belt, you can hear all these screams, and he's passing these jars, and you can see humans in these jars, but at the end of it was the table waiting for him in his turn, and the anxiety of that, 20-yard trip or whatever it was on that conveyor belt, where knowing at the end that it's going to be your turn, that had to be horrifying.
It would be. Have you heard any of these type of stories, Cheryl?
I haven't heard the conveyor belt thing, but yes, I've heard people being experimented. Everybody said they've been experimented on.
Yeah, we've even had people claim that there was body parts from humans laying around, and that it would be. Could you imagine if you've been abducted and you see things like that, and even if you're returned, what you would have to go through the rest of your life, and going to bed at night? Because I've talked to people, Cheryl, that claim that they were abducted as a child. and then they were abducted periodically all the way up to, adulthood, up to a certain age. And
that's what usually happens, yes.
And they, even like Terry Lovelace said, after his abduction, he was so paranoid he had to keep a loaded gun next to his headboard, not just for somebody breaking in. He was worried about being abducted again. He didn't want to be.
Not that a gun's going to stop that.
Probably not, but it might give him a little bit of self-assurance that, there's something, psychological. But again, people vanishing. If you look at the statistics, there is a lot of people in this world are vanishing. In the United States, there's a lot. Now, according to the FBI, database, they do find about 90% of them. But even that other 10% is a lot of people that they never find anything. And I don't think there's that many serial killers and murders out there for that amount. People are just disappearing. So you wrote this book. How long did it take you to write it?
Probably 2 weeks. It was really fast.
Wow.
It was like something was just helping me along to get this book out.
Okay. Did you have to do a lot of research in it?
Oh, absolutely, because I wanted to have all the facts right. I wanted to just get any kind of information, photos. I wanted to see their hypnotic regression. That was important because, they tell you something happened, but there's stuff that they don't remember until they were hypnotized.
Well, see, I think being hypnotized and regressed is good, but it all depends on who's doing it. If you're getting...
Well, you got to have a professional, yes.
You got to have somebody,
yes.
Somebody's certified. Because it's so easy to implant in people's minds false memories. Because we grew up, watching Star Trek, Star Wars, all kind of B movies with the big one-eyed monster alien. All that is implanted in our brain. And if you have somebody who's not certified and is not knowing how to hypnotize people, there's been people that come back, after being hypnotized, and they believe all this weird stuff actually happened to them.
Mm-hmm. Or they're more traumatized because while they're getting upset during the hypnosis, the person doesn't know how to calm them down. That's important too.
Yeah. Have you ever been regressed?
No.
Have you ever thought maybe you've been abducted at one point in your life?
I don't think so.
Would you
not
like
not by an alien. Okay. Maybe by something else.
Wow. Again, can you tell us some of the cases in your book to let the kind of...
The one that's really a favorite that most people probably don't know about is it's about the aerial school in Zimbabwe. And it was a children's primary school, and they went out for recess, and all of a sudden they saw this saucer land in the field next to their playground. So they all kind of ran over there to see what it was. And as they're standing there by the fence, these three little figures, about 3 feet tall, came floating out of the craft, and one of them floated right into the schoolyard by the boys and girls. And it started communicating with them telepathically. And it was showing them things that was scaring them, things they didn't understand. It was showing them things about war and disaster and images of the world all burned up where there's no trees anymore, just showing them all kinds of crazy stuff like that and telling them, well, you're young enough now, you can save the world. And they didn't know what to make of this, so they go running back into the school, and the headmaster came out and he said, oh, there's nothing there because now the craft was gone. So now these kids are upset. Some of them went home. Their parents thought they were lying. Some of them did believe that, and they actually took their kids out of school, and they moved away, and they moved back to Canada where they came from. They just got out of there. So they had Mr. Timothy Lynch came out. He was a foreign a foreign correspondent, and he actually interviewed all the children there. And before they went there, he says to the headmaster, can you have everybody draw a picture of what they saw? And so nobody was talking to each other, and they all drew pictures, and all the pictures were pretty similar. You see the craft and the figures and everything. And one of the pictures he looked at, it said Thursday and Friday. And he says, what happened Thursday? And the boy says, well, that's when the first craft landed over by the power line. So now this was the second time. So they went out to the field, and they had a photographer, and they're looking at where the landing site was supposed to be, and they found big gouges in the ground that would have been where the craft landed. So sure enough. So they did have some of the kids, when they grew up, they were fine. Some just never got over it. There was one girl, her name was Emily Trim, and the way she coped with it was she would do painting, just paintings of what she saw. And I saw her at an event one time, and she says, and I did this painting of a little girl with a zipper on her mouth because she couldn't tell. She couldn't tell anybody about this. But now that I'm up here speaking and telling the whole world, the little girl doesn't have a zipper on her mouth anymore. And I searched everywhere for that photo to put in the book. That was just wonderful, because she said sometimes the worst place to be is in your head.
Again, just think about, what she went through, and all these other people, even in the school you mentioned, where, the young kids, seeing a ET, and the ET's showing them what the world could be or what the world will be, and they can change it. You just think about what it would implant in their head for the rest of their lives.
That's why I said a lot of them had PTSD and had to, get some kind of help.
Yeah. Where can, our time is almost up here. Where can they find your book? And if you have your book handy, can you hold it up where people can see it?
Oh, don't have it with me, no.
Okay. Well, what's the name of the book, and where can they find it?
It's called Chosen, and it's on Amazon.
Okay. And do you have a website or anything, or Facebook you want to share to the listeners?
I've got a website, www.CherylLynnCarter.com, and I'm on Facebook too.
Okay. Well, Cheryl, I want to thank you so much for coming on Friday.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Okay, you take care. Well, we'll be right back after this. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. So don't go anywhere. We got a little bit more time.
It was Christmas Eve, babe, in the drunk tank. An old man said to me, won't see another one. And then he sang a song, the rare old mountain tune. I turned my face away and dreamed about you. Got on a lucky one, came in 18 to 1. I've got a feeling this year's for me and you. So happy Christmas, I love you, baby. I can see a better time when all our dreams come true.
They got cars big as bars, they got rivers of gold, but the windows right through you, it's no place for the old. When you first took my Christmas Eve, you promised me Broadway was waiting for me. You were handsome
You were pretty queen of New York City. When the band finished playing, they held out for more. Sinatra was swinging, all the drums they were singing. We kissed on a corner, then danced through the night. The boys of the NYPD choir were singing Go Away Babe, and the bells were ringing out for Christmas Day.
Looking for Bigfoot or UFO themed merchandise? Look no further. Explore Night Dreams Talk Radio's store for an array of paranormal goodies, from t-shirts to mouse pads to socks to whatever the heck that thing is. Don't miss out on these unique items. Check us out today at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. While you're checking out the cool merchandise, go to the latest news tab to find out what's going on in the world and outside the world. Again, go to www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Coming to you live from the Night Dreams Talk Radio studios, it's Gary Anderson and...
Tons of water ice found on the moon North Pole. However, all the projected landing sites are equatorial, nowhere near the poles where the ice would be and where there would be the greatest chances to find biological life.
So get ready, because Gary has only scratched the surface.
The scientists discovered 200 Goldilocks zones, and it says here that the bottom of these craters is 63 degrees Fahrenheit all the time, 24/7.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among stars.
And now, once again, the man we love to the moon and back, Gary Anderson.
Fly me to the moon. You know, I would like to go to the moon. Would you?
Yes, when we leave. As a matter of fact, there's a couple seats still open for that trip.
Is there? I don't know. The last time we were going to go to the moon, you instead of putting in liquid oxygen and putting in all this other, fuel for the rocket, you put diesel in it. And then when we started it, it sounded like, a 57 Etzel.
I thought he was going to say vegetable oil and Jackie Gleason was driving.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's so much, how can I say, disinformation out there about UFOs and abductions. And again, with disinformation, there's real stuff. How do you decipher, JC, which is real and which is a bunch of BS?
And that's the key factor. How do you discern with this? Because it's very strategically, with the disinformation, they have people, professionals, and they mix in truths with the, some bull crap, and it's hard because
what did you just say?
Go ahead.
What word did you just say?
They mix in some
bullshit.
No, I said crap.
I said shit.
You did.
I said that. I can say that. I'm the big guy. Haven't you ever heard the intros? I'm the big guy.
I have heard that once. And You're Naked and Afraid. I've heard that too.
Well, I'm not naked today. You can see I'm wearing I'm dressed, at least part way. But, if you think about these abductions, what do you believe? I mean, again, not just that, cattle mutilations, and it goes through a cycle. There hasn't been any cattle mutilations reported on the news media for a long time, but then it goes through cycles. All of a sudden there's one or two or three, across the country in like Arizona, Oregon, and places like that, and then nothing for, maybe a year or two. Then there's a couple more mutilations. And maybe it's these, ETs coming down. Hey, I want some chocolate milk, and they can't figure out how to make it. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I'm not totally convinced these ETs they're the ones doing all this either, because like you said, they've been doing this for decades and decades, and they got technology to come from wherever they come from. Do they really need to keep, taking cow eyes and tongues forever and blood?
Yeah, and all that. But again, look at our technology now with DNA. Right. We're very close bringing back, a dinosaur. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah. And the mammoths.
Yeah, mammoths. Those hairy creatures. Not my first wife, but, the other type. But, we're that close to doing it. Now, we're not even a level 1 civilization, and we're very close to that. Why would a race of ETs come down here, abduct people to get their DNA? How many, if they're cloning people, they can keep cloning the DNA. Certainly, if they have the technology to come here from wherever they're coming from, I just can't see why they would have to keep abducting people and collecting DNA and then, experimenting on people unless they're sadists. I mean, why would they have to keep opening up people to see what makes them tick?
Right. And it kind of gives a lot of validation toward that one theory where powers that be might want a false flag and they're planting all these things. They're doing these things to make it look like it's the ETs because it doesn't make sense. If you really think about it, like you just said, why would they have to keep doing that? I mean, I'm sure they have technology to probably just, flip a proverbial button and we'd be gone. I mean, it's not like
but that could happen at any time. They don't even have to do it that way. They can actually cause an asteroid to slam into Earth, and then it's over with. I mean, if they have the capability of traveling from another galaxy, solar systems, or who knows from where, even maybe Nebraska. But if they have that technology, I just also don't buy that. They're our own people from our own planet in different times, and going back forward in time. Why would we need a craft like that to go forward and backward in time? I mean, all we need is like Madman Malcolm did. Just get some Transformers. Zap, you're gone.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point about that asteroid there too, because who's to say they weren't the ones that kind of rebooted our civilizations 3-4 times? Because think about it, Gary. We've had must have been really advanced technology, even in ancient times, to build some of the things we built. And then all of a sudden it's like, how do we do it? And that technology is lost. And we've had floods, asteroids hitting. Maybe they caused this. Maybe they thought, well, listen, these, hairless apes are getting a little bit too close to doing things they shouldn't be doing. And maybe they do that. And if that's the case, Lord knows with the A-bomb and H-bombs, we're well past that line now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. But, if you really think about going back in time, like I mentioned so many times, the Sphinx, the lion head on it was not the original head. At one point, somebody decided, okay, well, we're going to change that head. We don't want that other head on it for some reason. But, the Sphinx dates back way more than any of the pyramids do.
Yes. Matter of fact, or go ahead.
I'm just saying. So if even the technology of as smart as we think we are, as smart as we think our civilization is, we only can surmise how the pyramid was constructed, or the pyramids. But yet we can't duplicate it with any of our technology. We can't build a pyramid. And when you look at the pyramids now, at one point, it had a metallic coating on it. And we don't even know what that coating was made out of. And why did it have a mirror-like coating over the pyramids originally?
Yeah, boy, these are all good points. And you're right, we can't build that stuff today. And you know what, you left out one important part. They did all that, Gary, with carpal tools. Could you imagine?
No, I don't buy that. Because,
I don't either.
I no way. Okay, we've had people on that claim that the Great Pyramid was a water pump. It lubricated the Nile Valley. Okay, we heard that. We also heard it was just something to, coordinate with the other pyramids to send out a signal or protect the Earth from asteroids. We don't even know that. But we do know that the pharaohs didn't build the Great Pyramids or the pyramid or the other pyramids. Some of them used it naturally because it was there. Hey, that's where I want to be planted when I pass on. But thinking about it, the technology There's no way. If look at the height of the pyramids, and the cutting of the stones is so accurate. As I said on my show, on the show in the past, years ago, I talked to one of the head people of Flow Industries in Kent. They're the ones that perfected cutting precise, being able to cut concrete and stones accurately with water. And they said they still could not cut these blocks as accurate as the pyramids were. And they were put together not with cement, not with glue, super glue. They were all cut so accurate that they all went together like a puzzle and didn't collapse ever. Think about the technology to do that. No, I don't think they had elephants or camels, dragging these big stones up. They just didn't have the technology to cut it, let alone the quarry where they were getting these big blocks was a long ways away. And again, people have claimed that they created canals and they brought these stones, massive tons of stones of weight by, barge. And then they transported it to where they're building the pyramid. That doesn't make logical sense. They had some type of technology that we just can't comprehend.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you something. I just seen a documentary 2 days ago, Gary. There's this great big square. It's cut out of granite. It looks like a giant tomb inside one of the rooms in the pyramid. Now, get this. This square chunk of granite was cut square, and then the inside was cut square all the way down to the bottom of it. So it's got 4 walls, okay? Now remember, granite's like the 3rd or 4th hardest substance there is. And it was cut precisely inside and out to the T. And now here's the other thing. It was done inside this room. This hunk of granite was so heavy, and that the amount of people that it would take to carry it in that room would be more than could fit in the room. So it's like they can't explain how they did it and how it got in that room.
Well, how about put it this way? They didn't have computers. They didn't have the technology. How could they create these rooms so accurately, perfectly cut out, let alone even build the pyramids, the shape of the pyramids, right? Without the tools, and I'm not talking hand tools or tools, the technology to get the angles just right, to fit every one of those blocks just perfect. Without the technology, we can't do it with our technology now, with our computers, with AI, all that. We still are not capable of building a pyramid like that.
No, and the other thing is too, supposedly they had no electricity or light, and they used torches. But here's the thing. They didn't use torches, Gary, because there's no evidence of soot on none of the walls anywhere.
No, so, it tells me, again, maybe we were rebooted. Maybe that was the lost civilization from Atlantis.
Yeah.
Or, again, let's face it, God or gods. Humans have always had to believe in a god or gods. The fire god, Mount Olympus, all these gods, think about it. Mm-hmm. The god of fire, the god of death, god of water, we've always had to believe in some type of god. Now, could God, I'm not going to get into religion, but could God have actually been a race of ETs? And that naturally, that the humanoids, which I'm not going to call them humans at that point, maybe they were bred by, these race of ETs and created man and then kind of tweaked with it. It throws off everything of the Bible. It throws off Adam and Eve. It really does. And they have now been finding that man has existed far back in time more than we have ever comprehended.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point about it, because you're right. These ancient humans, you got some beings coming here. They're going to think, oh, look at these gods coming from the heavens or whatever. But here's the other scenario from this. What if some of these aliens or wherever they are they knew how the ancient man would react. So therefore, making it very easy to manipulate them and going right ahead and saying, yes, we are your gods. That's another aspect nobody ever really mentions either.
Well, maybe they created humans. Maybe humans were, well, not all humans as we sense. Maybe they did a little genetics to them and created a working force. Even going back to the old gold mines, we're going back before the pharaohs. We're going back in time at the very beginning. Why was there mines created for gold? Why was gold such a precious commodity right from the very beginning with the Incas, the Mayas, all these, the pharaohs, all these? Gold was like the most important thing. Why wasn't it brass? Why wasn't it copper? Why was gold all of a sudden very precious?
Right. And you brought up a good point there with the gold and also with, like Zachariah Sitchin said, that was one of the theories about mankind. Also, they took some DNA and what took very primitive man and mixed some of their DNA to make what we call modern man today, to work these mines supposedly for that gold that you just mentioned.
Now, gold, a lot of people don't realize gold is this, besides a ring, gold can be used in a lot of different things, medically even. So, gold has a lot of things. If you wanted to reboot or create a atmosphere, a habitable planet, one of the elements you're going to need to create it is gold. And a lot of people don't realize that, too. I mean, gold is something we wouldn't probably even be here walking on this planet if it wasn't for gold.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. Ancient man, and not just Egyptians, but it was in China, it was in Central America, South America, all over the world. They were all, they had took gold and was making trinkets and jewelry and stuff out. Now these are people that times were tough. It wasn't like today. You had to pretty much spend most of your days either hunting and gathering or getting food or planning on how to stay warm or heat or whatever. But look at all the time they took to still get gold and make gold and do things with gold. And
yeah, but you're getting the point. Yeah. Why would they choose gold over any other metal? Because whatever was instilled in them, they knew it was precious. So then it became a commodity that was precious. Not brass, not copper, not zinc, not lead.
No.
But gold. Something going back in time has instilled into humanity that gold is in platinum. Well, that's only been lately. But, gold was like the main thing. So, I really think it was because we were being visited and that the mines were created by these ETs and they were harvesting our resources off our planet, which is gold. Again, they surmise there's no gold on Mars. There's no gold on the moon. There's no gold. And they figure a lot of these asteroids. But for some reason, this planet had abundance of gold.
Yeah, and boy, it does make you scratch your head and wonder about these things because, and even today, gold is still carried on as a popular thing. Not just because it does, my goodness, the applications you can do with that material is just mind bending. But a lot of people don't realize too. You can take the little amount of gold, Gary, and you probably know, but you can spread it out over a large distance to cover things, to help insulate and other things. He played it, and it has very amazing abilities.
It has a lot in, put it this way, in medical. Again, in medicines, gold is used in some type of medicines. I don't know if you're aware of that. It's pulverized in such a fine process that they actually put gold in a couple of medicines, which are life savings. So think about all the things from that fancy ring to medicine to you name it. And the world is running out of silver. And when that happens, we got a problem because your computers, your cell phone has gold and silver in it, in some of the devices in it to make it work. Your TV, all that stuff. One day when we run out of silver, what are we going to do?
Yeah, that's a good point too. We're gonna have to get out there where all them shipwrecks and get them doubloons, because there's a fortune out there. But and that was the thing too, silver. You're right. There's so many uses for that silver that we're used to having, and if we didn't have it, Gary, our technology we'd have to come up with other ways.
But the thing that really puzzles me, here we have pyramids, right? From South America to Mexico to Peru to the Amazon to the Middle East, Antarctica. They claim that with a satellite imagery, they actually think they found a pyramid in Antarctica. And you think about this, how could a race of humans worldwide, and even in China they have pyramids,
right?
How could it be? How could they couldn't communicate, at least the way we think about it? Why would mankind build all these pyramids? I don't believe, again, I'm going to say, I don't think the pyramids were designed by mankind. I think they were designed by the gods, which are ETs.
Yeah, and even even in India, the Ramada, which was way back when too, they look like flying pyramids. Even on top of that, so yeah, there's something going on there. There is a connection, and it's always kind of funny. I think every time we get to a point where we can really discover and get over the hump, we get rebooted. And is that a natural thing, or is ETs behind that?
I don't know. I think we are a warrior race.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time. That's what dooms our civilization and humanity. We have never got rid of the rage. We have never got rid of the desire to want from other people or other nations or other societies.
Take
and justify it. All the wars, if you think back, what's going on now or going back in time, to medieval time, to go back even farther, back to the Roman times, go back even farther back to Greece and all that. There's always been wars. Why have humans had to have wars? Until that stops, we're never going to be a civilization one planet, because we have to get out of that. We have to grow out of killing each other and taking what is not ours. And when that happens, maybe we'll become a civilization one. And maybe these ETs are visiting us. Maybe it's a tour. Maybe they're coming from another galaxy, right? And we're a zoo. And they're just bringing the visitors that come and look at all of us. Hey, look at that. Look at what they created. Ha ha.
Yeah, and boy, you bring up a good point, because listen, you can look back at the Vikings, the conquistadors, even Columbus. These people they would take and they would kill, mass murder, kill and take their gold and their land. And the hypocrite and the greed, they would be like, they couldn't understand why if somebody would do that to them, oh, how dare them? They can't do that. But yet they're doing it. It made no sense. The greed and the just ruthless murder.
Well, look what the Spanish did. They came to the New World, right? And what did they do? They pillaged. They saw gold, right? And then they did their thing to extort the gold and kill and slaughter and try to convince the natives or the population that they had to believe in God at the same time as they're being screwed over.
Yeah. You got to believe in God as they're their God, or if you don't, we're going to kill you. So what kind of religion is that? If you don't believe it, we're going to kill. I mean, everything was death, our way, you're going to die.
Well, religion has been the most horrid thing in humanity. Think about it. If you go back to the Roman days, or go back to the Egyptian days, or you go back to, God, back in Greece, or even before, like Cain and Abel, what have people done?
And why it's so ridiculous. You're going to kill people because they don't believe in what you believe or you want their land. That's just really, especially way back in ancient history, there was so much land that was plentiful. There wasn't 7 billion people walking around. It wasn't even near that.
I don't know. I'm really just worried about humanity in general. You know, another thing it really gets me is there's a lot of people in ufology that I really have a lot of respect for. Then there's other people out there I really don't have any respect because, you know, if you read their books, like how many times have I said this for the years? They steal people's, stories out of other people's books and they write their own book from it. I mean, there has been so many times I would get a book from an author and I'd start reading it and then it would bug me for days and then I would start going through all my books. That's where I found it, right there.
Yeah, they just changed the name on the title and pretty much added a couple little words, but it's the same story. You know, it's the same thing.
You know, think about it. In all the years I've been doing this, you know, I literally have interviewed thousands upon thousands of guests. And I've heard it all. Everything about from E.T. to time travel and whatever. And I'll be honest with you. I just, when people start talking about regression and stuff like that, it just, you know, I lose interest in the topic with them really fast.
Yeah, but boy, because even if they're not knowing purposely, putting a false memory or an idea in somebody's head, they could do it unknowingly too.
Like what I mentioned to Cheryl.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We grew up, even me at my age, I grew up in, you know, the 50s and 60s. What did I see on TV? The one-eye monster. Or, you know, the gawking whatever in a cave, you know, from planet Xeron. And, you know, they're mind controlling people and all this stuff, right? And you grew up with that. You grew that up with as a child, and it's all implanted in your brain. And then shows like Star Trek, The Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, you know, Star Wars, and all these other movies that come since then. And you watched it. It's all in your brain. Maybe you might not remember it coherently, but when you regressed, if the person doesn't know how to regress, people are not medically certified and board certified to do it. Man, I can tell you, a lot of people, you know, believe some of this stuff that they all say, well, I was regressed and I was in Pompeii when it blew up. I was the queen. Now, I haven't had many people say they regressed and they were Adolf Hitler. I can tell you that, or Stalin.
No, usually it's Napoleon or Cleopatra, isn't it?
Yeah, that, you know, there's somebody. I don't know.
I don't know either. But
yeah. I take everything as a grain of salt. This is entertainment.
Yeah.
And we try to give you the best entertainment we can. And, you know, again, it's up to you to believe what the guest says. Now, I really enjoyed, by the way, having Tim Swartz on. We need to get him back on for part 2. He was a fun interview, and it kind of was cool because we had Marshall Barnes on last week.
Yes, 2 different point of views and theories about going forward with time travel, what it could be in time slips. Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, again, I really think a time slip is we're slipping in and out of another dimension or a portal in and out. Okay, I don't think we're going back in time as such. I just think we're going into a parallel universe or something.
Yeah, I think some of the different universe might bleed into another one, and it may look like a portal, or you may see things or experience something that's in a different timeline. But yeah, I think that would explain some of these things. It might even explain, honestly, Gary, some sightings of ghosts or apparitions, or even some cryptids.
Well, yeah, because they come in from another dimension or whatever. A big shout out to December, to June, and we had a bunch of other people. Steady Eddie, I know who you are. You're always recommending guests for the show. And yeah, and a few other people. You know, again, I can't believe we went from 2,040 and we're almost at 36,000 subscribers all in a month on YouTube. And on the internet side, we are back up where we used to be, between 500,000 and 1 million strong. Now, all we have to do, the thing is, what I'm noticing, which is really alarming, on YouTube, we were talking about this, a lot of our listeners, and that might be my fault, because I do a lot of radio interviews off, like in the Philippines and Malaysia and places like that. And because they're really into the paranormal and UFOs and Bigfoot. So I get called up a lot. Well, you come on. And so I get to plug the show. But what's interesting is my platform, my software I use tells me what cities people are in, what country they're in, and their general age group. And the majority of our listeners are now 25 to 35 is our main core. And a lot of them are coming from Indonesia, India, the Philippines, and New Zealand, and Australia, the UK, Ireland, and Germany, and Austria, is in Canada. Canada has gone crazy lately with a lot of people that subscribe to the show. And what I'm finding is we need to get some of these people on. Maybe it's because of the time difference, right? On YouTube, you can just go back and watch the episode. So you don't have to be on when we're live. You can just go back and, watch it a day or two later. Because some of the episodes we put on are like cranking out 15,000 views.
Yeah, I've seen that. And another bonus is, too, you don't have to pay anything to watch or listen to these shows.
Yeah, it's free. Now, you can go to our store and help support us, or go to our club and make a donation there. That helps play with the music, because that's another thing. I've been getting a lot of people say they like the music that we play from the 70s to the 90s. And again, I think that has a lot, because a lot of people said since I started playing that type of bumper music, it just reminds them of another past show, and they really like the show. And I want to thank everybody from the Philippines to, God, I wrote down and I can't figure out where I stuck it. New Manila.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, a lot of listeners out of that city. And the Philippines, it's just crazy. And I want to thank all of you worldwide that it's making us grow. I mean, I'm not going to mention the shows, but a couple of big shows out there, we're starting to pass them up now with the amount of people who are watching it on YouTube. It's really shocked me.
Yes, I noticed that. And it's only going to get better going forward, Gary. So the future looks bright.
And who is our guest tomorrow on Friday? On Night Dreams Talk Radio with me, Gary, naturally.
Oh, Gary. We got 2 guests tomorrow, starting off with Thomas Jane. Thomas Jane, actor, UFO talker, and he was in such things as...
Yeah?
Well, the one you always say, Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, but can you name some of the other ones?
Oh yeah, he was in a series. He was talking about with him today. He's got season 2's coming out in July. Topper, made in Australia, where he kind of plays a detective. It's a really good show. But he's played Mickey Mantle in 61. Listen, this guy has been, and he was even in. He's been in so much stuff. It's mind-boggling. I love it.
Yeah. So Deep Blue Sea. I just watched that again the other night. He was
in Boogie Nights.
Yeah, Boog. Yeah, that was a good one. But you know what? Thomas Jane is our first guest, and we're going to be talking about, ETs and whatever he wants to talk about. He's the guest. And who's our second guest tomorrow?
Hey, our second guest is the husband of Camille Harmon. Jeff Harmon is going to come on. Now, he's an astrologer, but he's also a paranormal researcher, and he's had a lot of experiences with UFOs and aliens and research into it, so that he's got some good stuff to talk about also.
And his wife is a famous actress.
Yes, she was on our show a while back. She's good.
Oh, yeah. So if you like the show, please give us a thumbs up, and even go to our website and just tell me what type of music you would like to hear as bumper music. That would be good. And, that is, hi, Gary. Not me. Well, Gary's out there. And I want to say thank you for getting on. And if you have any suggestions for guests or anything like that, or contact information for a guest you'd like to have on the show, please do that. Just go on to the website and click on the bottom. On the side, there's a little fast blast, and you can send me an email directly that way, or you can go to nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Check out our website. If you want the latest news from world events to ETs to, well, Bigfoot or the strange, just click on the news section on the website. A lot of information on our website you won't find on our competition. I try to, make the show really, enjoyable for you, the listener. Well, JC, what are you going to be doing tomorrow before showtime? You got anything planned exciting?
Tomorrow's Friday. Yeah, I do got to make my rounds to the store. Maybe hang out with my sister for a little bit. She's about to go on vacation, so I thought I'd hang out with her for an hour maybe, and just do that. But this weekend, I'll try to go bass fishing once again.
Yeah, I noticed you were fanning yourself and you were in your underwear. How hot is it in your studio?
Oh, it's actually went down, but it was hot there. I think all these computers, but it was 85 outside. And I got the air conditioner on, and it was probably 85 in here. It was blistering.
Yeah, I watched him eat 12 popsicles.
I didn't eat any today.
Okay, well, you just wrecked my joke again. Oh, gee. Well, you know where I'm going to go on vacation this year? Nebraska. You're going to ask me why?
You're going to tell me.
Yeah, my first wife kept saying, if you don't want to be married to me, go to Nebraska.
Oh, well,
and it's stuck in my head for God, 50 some years.
That was a heck of a seed she planted.
Yeah. Now, you know what you get in Nebraska?
Corn.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Well, everybody have a good one. I want to thank you for tuning in again. Give us a thumbs up. That's very important. So before you sign off, give us a thumbs up. And some people are saying that they couldn't hear JC the Hitman on a show last night. If you're listening on your tablet or your cell phone, two things you need to do: clean the history and clean the catch. Because if you don't clean the catch off your phone on a regular basis, what's going to happen is things aren't going to work right. So you go onto a website and it might not play. Well, everybody have a good one. We'll catch you on the other side of the campground tomorrow night with Thomas Jane. So everybody have a good one. We'll catch you later.
Who's friends with all the night dreamers talking to you at night? Gary on the radio, but maybe he's not in sight. Bigfoot's on his tail, flying UFOs, that's right. Gary's talk show radio, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights. If you need a